Alright, so in this video, I'm going to give some insight into careers and nonlinear careers, nonlinear career paths. Um, so this is something that I've been working on for the past few days because I myself have struggled a lot with this specific problem. The problem being that now this isn't specifically careers for me; it's more so business. What kind of business I want to create, for example. So if you're interested in business or careers, either one, this video is for you. And if you've been struggling with trying to figure out what's the right business or what's the right career for you, you keep bouncing between different areas of interest. You keep bouncing between following a specific traditional path, or maybe you get inspired by somebody or something, but then you find yourself stopping yourself and not staying consistent in terms of the step-by-steps that are laid out for you based on a traditional path. Um, and so for myself, my struggle has been similar to something like business, where I've been trying to create my business that can be clearly laid out in terms of like, okay, year one, I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be helping people with this specific problem. Like I've been struggling with that. Why? Because I've realized that the way that I do business, I don't want to just focus on one thing. I want to actually point people to um, a holistic approach. So I want to teach people a holistic approach rather than solving their problems for them. Because in that holistic approach, they can then uh, basically solve more of their problems. Um, so it becomes a much more integrative approach versus just this linear progression. So just a little background, but I've hit some strides in terms of um, this specific issue, and I just saw a YouTube video recommended to me. It was titled "Why." I think something like why soul-centered individuals don't follow or should follow nonlinear paths. So this is kind of taking inspiration from that, but I'm adding in uh, my own context and my own expertise to it. So this is just a little insight, okay? So hopefully, I believe this is going to be very helpful for you. But if you're struggling with this issue of multiple passions, multiple interests, and you don't know what specific path to take, then that most likely means that you are connected to the soul. You are being called by the soul to pursue a creative endeavor. And it doesn't have to be creative in the sense of being an artist. It doesn't have to be creative in the sense of making music. What people often portray as creativity being artistry, which is not the same thing. A creative is an individual who's able to synthesize things together to make uh, something out of something else. So you don't have to make music. You can put specific pieces of information together to produce a specific piece of content, and that's what we see with like content creators, right? Uh, but this is outside of artistry. This is more so to do with something very inherent in humanity. We all have the capacity to be creative, and this is a very soul-centered aspect. So nonlinear paths. Let's get into that really quick. Often we have to differentiate between the soul and the personality, and the personality is going to be the aspect of your ego. The personality is also the one that is going to push you towards something certain. It wants you to follow a traditional path, something safe, very monetarily guided, looking for security, looking for that certainty, right? So we have the personality, and then we have the soul. Personality versus soul. And if we think about it, then this is not going to be good. There, that is much better. Right, so the personality versus the soul. Um, the personality is going to move in a very linear path. So this is personality progression. So this personality progression, there's going to be, for example, this is you in the beginning. As time passes, you grow as an individual, and you have gained knowledge, expertise in a specific field. But the soul moves differently. This is soul expansion. So there's this progression that is not linear. It's actually holistic. And what I'm seeing here is an expansion of layers. We're adding layers onto the individual. So we're not growing through time and expanding the circle. Rather, we are adding complexity to the whole self. So we have layers here to explore. Now, it's not about one being better than the other, and this is important for you. So, for example, you might have a specific interest in a specific field. For me, it's psychology, and as I dove deeper and deeper into psychology, um, I learned about cognitive psychology, behavioral psychology, depth psychology. Then I started diving into astrology, and then I started to poke my head into other things around consciousness and also psychedelics and all of that. But in the traditional sense, if I had wanted to live a personality guided life, a personality centered life, I would have chosen to be either a mathematician, an engineer, or a psychologist. Those three things were very much in line with my personality, my ego. It was really much the safe place for me because those were things that I excelled in. I was very good at math. I was very good at psychology, and so I could have chosen either one of those paths. But the problem for me was that I didn't want to choose between those because I loved them all, right? So I would have been a great psychologist, and just this is an aside, I believe myself to be a great psychologist right now. The only reason I can't say that I'm a psychologist is due to legal reasons. I don't have the certification. I don't have the licensure. I didn't go to get a PhD or a master's degree, which kind of pisses me off that I can't use the word psychologist because I believe myself to be even better than other psychologists in the actual field, and that's just something I want to throw out there. And that's for you to conclude. But anyways, um, if I chose to do the conventional path, I would have just become a psychologist, and I would have helped people out in that path. But then the thing though is that as you see what I mentioned earlier, that as I dove deeper into this, I started to get interested in other things. So I started to integrate other aspects, sort of related to psychology, but also not really related to psychology. So I started to extend myself. I started to look into psychedelics. I started to look into consciousness studies. I started to look into meditation, Eastern philosophy. And so this then added much more layers of complexity to the subject itself. And so I became somebody that was tying psychology in with the rest of these things. Let me see if you can, yeah, you can see that. And so then that is a very creative process, being able to tie these guys in together. And what I want to point out is that both of these things can exist, and the only way for them to exist is going to be through a three-dimensional model. And the only way I can do that, I'm going to do my best to illustrate this. But for example, we can expand one circle, but also we can add layers to that circle. So expansion then becomes something three-dimensional. So we can expand. I'm trying to think here. So this is an example of what I'm talking about. And I'm still working this out, so it's not going to be a perfect concept. But just imagine putting these two together in a three-dimensional space, and what you'll get is the capacity to grow within one specific field while also integrating other fields. And so this becomes a holistic approach. Not only do you grow linearly in your knowledge of the field, but you also grow holistically in your ability to integrate different fields into that one. So then that then allows you to revolutionize the field within itself. And when I'm talking about that, it really has much more to do with living a life outside of a specific vocation. It is going to be this matter of creativity versus vocation. And I'm going to dive deeper into that. The process itself is not something that I can still explain very conceptually. I will explain it through analogy. Analogy being my personal experience. So, for example, right now I am working at a restaurant, and when I come home, I am working on everything else that I am interested in. So, if you see my past video, I look into things such as sleep and dreaming. I look into psychedelics, a little bit of physics, a little bit of definitely psychology, definitely astrology. I'm also learning to day trade. And so as I dive into these different fields that can seem very disconnected and not related, I am then able to integrate these fields together. So I find one field and I find another, and to the outside perspective, I'm very spread out. But as I connect more and learn more, these fields very quickly become interconnected. And so then what happens is a layering of understanding, which then allows me to um, connect more fields together. And this leads to an ease of understanding across other fields. And so then we can think of this as sort of like a magnetic force that as I continue to grow and learn, I attract other things to me, and so they start compiling and integrating and interlocking, sort of like atom interlocks with another atom, creating a molecule, and so that changes the entire structure of the atom itself. For example, H2 is hydrogen. H2 is not H2 is something else. Hold on, H2O. Let's go with H2O. H2O is water. Well, H2 is hydrogen, right? Um, that's just a loose analogy, but you get that, because now I think that makes a lot of sense, because what then is happening is that my life is the expression of this entanglement of different interests, and so what then happens is that I can't be defined anymore by anything that is known or understood. I begin to create new fields of study, new fields of exploration. So when we're thinking about trading, um, now it's not just trading to make money, but then we start thinking about trading and how trading can help you regulate your emotions, trading and how trading can teach you about mass psychology, and then trading and seeing how it relates to Taoism philosophy. So these are things that I'm seeing in the internet that people are talking about, and so now this concept of trading becomes much bigger. And so now when you're talking about trading, you're not anymore talking about the the, the usual thing. You begin to see different career paths, different expressions of people um, doing trading, and not being confined to a specific thing. So um, so that is the yeah. There's new the put the camera somewhere. Okay. Yeah. Go. Um, so that's that, and then so that is just an example of how that's an example of how different career paths are then created through this exploration of multiple interests, of not following a specific path. Uh, so the insight that kind of gave birth to this video was that um, the nonlinear path is going to be an integration. Yes, there we go. Of vocation and creativity, and we're going to finish this off. This is going to tie this all together. So we have personality is related to vocation. Creativity is related to the soul. And now I'm going to explain this in the way that I understand self-consciousness, self-development. There we go. So through our lives, there's a process of individuation or the process of self-actualization, but these are processes that have been recorded in the field of psychology, where one can track one's state of consciousness. So at the beginning, we are more primal, more focused on survival. And as we evolve, we begin to develop interest in things much more complex and much more on the mental and spiritual level. So we then become interested in things like self-esteem, fulfillment, and then as things progress, our needs get met, and then we get interested in things like intellectual curiosity or spiritual philosophy. So you start evolving, and that's the story of the self-evolution. Um, but somebody's calling me. Okay, that's basically the path of evolution. But there gets a point where then you connect to the soul, and once the soul, you start connecting to the soul, then things get mixed up. Things get a little shaky because you are no longer confined to the personality. You are then confined to something, or you are being attracted to something much higher. And the personality is something that operates in the lines of vocation. But once we develop our personality to a high extent, we then become receptive to the soul, and we become receptive to creativity. And so then what we pursue is not so much vocation. What we pursue is creativity, expression, um, bringing things forth into this world. And once that happens, then that's where you will find yourself in the place you're in right now, which is looking to synthesize, looking to bring different things together, to create new worlds, to create new expressions, to bring new forms of thought into this world. And it can be different things. It can be music, it could be art, it could be content creation, it could be writing, it could be like I was even looking like at 3D printing, home design, architecture, policy, business. All of these different things are born, and they are the byproduct of synthesis, which is what naturally happens when one is exploring these different fields. There we go again. We get that integration. There's a force that's pulling these things inwards, and you know what that force is? That force is you. And so I want you to understand that what you are doing, pursuing multiple interests, bouncing between these different spaces, the reason that you're struggling is not because because you're doing something wrong. The reason you're struggling is because you keep defining yourself by what you do rather than defining yourself by who you are. And this is going to be another topic for another video. I kind of already talked about it in the previous video, but I'll go into it in the future once I start refining that concept a little better. But that force that's bringing these things together, that is your attention, that is your development, that is your process of going into these things. And so what happens then is going to be this realization that, oh shit, I'm the one that is bringing these things together. I'm the one that links all of these things together. Instead of me looking for the conventional path and trying to fit what I'm doing to that path. No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look away from that path and look inwards, come back to myself, and see what I'm trying to create, and mold it in my space, and keep on molding, keep bringing these things together, keep pulling these areas together. And in doing so, you evolve, and then you evolve the things that you're interacting with. And then as that happens, things start just coming out. You naturally become a creator. You naturally just want to put these things out, because first it comes in your mind that you see the connections, and then it is lived and expressed in your reality. And there can be so many different combinations, and they're already coming out. People are already showing it. But like the combination of self-awareness and relationships, and then you see conscious relationships, or the understanding of business with psychology, and then you start seeing like business psychology, but then at a higher level, uh, conscious business, conscious entrepreneurship. And um, and so then you see the creation of new fields, and these fields are just above what is known, what is seen. But as you start to bring those forward, you then begin to create a new reality, and contribute to this new age that we're entering, being the age of Aquarius. Um, Much more to talk about, much more to explore, but that's basically what I wanted to explain. To hopefully, this being a small piece to the puzzle of your current struggle. Um, yeah, let me know if there's anything else I can explore. Let me know if there's any questions around these things. If you're confused about anything, I will continue to refine what I have and create something that can be of service to you. I appreciate you watching. You already know it's your boy. Stay lucid. Peace.